Fellow tennis nerds, welcome to the Dunlop CX 400 Tour version 2 racket review. And this is a little bit different one. Usually I'm sitting by my desk, but here I'm standing by my stringing machine because I'm gonna string up my second Dunlop CX 400 Tour and get it ready for play, because this is a racket I've been enjoying playing some matches, playing training. It's a racket that stayed in the bag. Not sure I'm switching 100% because I never tend to do that these days. Tend to have pretty short flings with rackets, but this one is one of those rackets that's been great, and I've really been enjoying it. And I think you can do too. It's a racket that's very balanced, kind of like a Speed MP, Blade 100. It's on the control spectrum, but 100 square inch head size. So that's why it's in those kind of ever expanding lines. In this case, CX is control when it comes to Dunlop, and Blade is control for Wilson, of course. And head speed is kind of in between, because head have more rackets to choose from. And there are other competitors to this racket as well that I'm going to talk about, but Pure Strike 100, 1620, which I also have. And that's been something I've been playing with a bit as well, but that has more power. This one feels more control. The Dunlop CX 400 Tour, what I've been playing in this racket is Hyper G, my kind of go-to string from the past. Has come back in a round format, and in my rackets it's been there, but it's come back in my rackets in a round format. And now I also try it with soft and round as a hybrid, and that was actually quite nice, and that's something I've been enjoying. Hyper G is not the softest string, so you can feel the arm a bit depending on the tension. I do like higher tensions overall, and I do like to feel control always, but this has been a good setup for me at around 53 pounds mains and 51 pounds crosses. But yeah, this racket, if we look at the specs, I'm looking at the specs right now, it's 100 square inches, which is becoming the standard. 98, 97, even 95 for players looking for more control. This one you get a bit help on the serve, a bit more help from the ground, which I tend to need, so I think that makes sense. Although I do love playing with 95 square inch rackets. That's what I have maybe the most fun. But I'm not going to be competitive against players like in this video. You see me hitting with Daniel here a lot, so I'm not going to have enough game for hitting a 95 against him. So 68 stiffness, that's unstrung, so you pull it down to 65. This one, in contrast to the CX200, which I will get to in another review, that was very, very low in swing weight. This one has a swing weight of around 320 with strings, and that's pretty good. I think this one is a little bit higher even, so the quality control is obviously something I've been complaining about, and I can keep complaining about it. Overall, 32 centimeter balance, 16-19 pattern, pretty evenly spaced, I would say, like Speed MP, but I do feel like it's not as launchy as the Speed MP, where I've been struggling. Pure Strike has more power. This is more like the Blade 100 version 9, I would say. A nice feeling to it. They've added some technology. They changed the mold, so it's a bit boxy, which feels good, especially on the one-handed backhand when you take the racket back. It's a good feeling when you have that boxy beam, even though it's kind of modern boxy and it's like 23 millimeter, which is exactly the beam width of the Speed. And this one does well on pretty much all strokes. I'm not struggle with it really particularly on any stroke. I tend to switch rackets anyway because I think it's fun, and I have to because I'm testing and it's my job these days. But overall, this has been the racket I've been gravitating towards the most, and I've not yet decided if I'm going to play with the Hyper G or not, if that's a little bit stiff in this frame. It's not an arm unfriendly frame, but it's not the softest frame on the market either. It's kind of in between, and that's how you get that extra little bit of power. And I haven't customized it at all, so I could technically add a little bit of weight to it, get it up to close to 330 swing weight, and it might work even better for me. But this one does pretty much everything I want from a racket. Feels controlled, but gives you extra power, has some good spin potential. Yes, you could maybe have argued for a 1620 string bed, but the 1619 is pretty controlled in my opinion. Launch is relatively low for this type of racket, but you can still generate spin. So is it too powerful for me to use long term in match play? Possibly, I don't know. I played 2 practice matches with it. One went really well, one went not so good, but it's also on the day how you're feeling and so on. So you need to kind of stick to a racket for a longer time. Otherwise you might not get a full picture of what the racket does to your game. So you need to test it in training against different players, in matches, and preferably in competitive matches, maybe like tournaments, club leagues, whatever you're playing, because I think that's where the truth is. And if you can, record your matches. That's always what I try to do, so I get an idea. I can look back, what am I doing, how am I misbehaving with my footwork or whatever you want to call it. The CX line is my favorite Dunlop line. I think they've been good all generations since they released it when they partnered with Strixon or were bought by Strixon. It's a great frame. I think this is the most balanced one. 200 we'll get to. It's also a good racket, so don't get me wrong, that's for more control. But since the swing weight is so low, you need to customize it. That's the problem with that racket. So you might ask what's different compared to the previous generation. Different molds, so the racket moves a little bit differently through the air. I feel like the feeling is a bit plusher. I try to avoid talking the tech lingo because I don't think it's as techy as it sounds. But overall, they've done something that is a good update to the frame, that it makes it feel a bit better when you impact the ball, has some pocketing, does not feel harsh in any way. The other old one was a little bit raw in feel, but this one feels very good. And it's not going to be like a head from 2000s, where it's kind of my favorite rackets, those head, whether you go back to old Radicals or you go back to PT57As, now the Pro Stock, which I have a few, and these type of rackets where like the ball feels like butter in the string bed. It's not that kind of racket, but it feels nice for what it is, like a more modern racket with more power and spin. And then it's really up to you whether you want to play with a more modern racket or you prefer that old school feel. It's really that's up to you, that decision. Works well on serve, works well on ground strokes. No real downside. I didn't feel like the racket is too muted, that there's any issues with you not understanding where the ball is going or anything like that. I feel like it's pretty good overall. Like a really nice racket. I really like it. Nikki liked it as well when we tried it, as you might have seen in that video. One question I got as late as today, I get hundreds and hundreds of questions and I can't answer them all, is if the racket works on the one-handed backhand, these kind of 100 square inch rackets, do they like feel sluggish? And this one feels pretty fast. I mean, usually like I prefer a smaller head size on the one-hander. That's me. I mean, for some players it doesn't matter, but that's me. But in this racket, I don't struggle with the one-hander. I mean, it's my worst shot, so I will feel that if that something feels odd on it, I do prefer the 98, but overall a good stick. I don't struggle with the 100 square inch head size on that shot. So if you ask that, then it's not been an issue. There's no issue with floaty slices. The slices go low. Launch angle is not crazy. Depth control pretty fine. Yeah, so very balanced, very good. I prefer it over the Pure Strike 100 1620 because that's too powerful and not quite as nice in feel. I have not tried the Blade 100 V9, but as I could understand from the other blades which I've tried, those are a little bit too dampened for me these days. I prefer having a little bit more connection to the ball, which this one gives. And compared to the Speed MP, I feel like the string bed is more... I mean, the Speed MP feels pretty nice, but the string bed feels erratic to me. It just could be my game, but it's something about it. And I think Nikki agreed to that. But yeah, maybe you have other opinions about the new Speed MP. I felt like the Speed Pro felt like super consistent and flat and like with a missile-like trajectory, while the MP was quite launchy. So maybe they wanted to differentiate them more. I don't know. We will see how long this, love affair lasts. You never know with me. I always tend to get attracted by something else. This is not my love life. This is my racket life. And we will see. But usually I keep members and patrons posted about my own play with analysis, so you can check that out if you are interested and if you want to support the channel. No stress, just happy that you're watching my videos. That's about it. That's the CX400 Tour. Great frame, something I will keep using. Check out tennisnerd.net for the latest tennis news and predictions, gear articles. We have the guide to rackets and strings. That site is expanding and I have some help on it now, which is great. So more things to come from Tennis Nerd. I hope you're well. Have a nice day and don't forget to play some tennis.